The other thing I want to bring up with you that I'm worried about that makes Arizona very, very different from almost every other state where this buildup is happening, Brahm, is that we're a stand your ground state. We have one of the most expansive stand your ground laws in the entire country that rivals even Florida. We also have a lot of guns in Arizona. We're a gun culture in this state. And you know, it's kind of a recipe for disaster because you have these masked federal officers with very little identification, sometimes no identification, wearing plain clothes and masks. And we have a stand your ground law that says that if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger and you're in your house or your car or on your property, that you can defend yourself with lethal force.
I want to be careful with that and understand
No,
what you're saying, because you know how that could be interpreted.
Well, but it's the fact. It's the fact that we have a stand your ground law, and we have in other states ununiformed, masked people who can't be identified as police officers. That is a problem. That's why it's so important to have uniforms and to be identified, especially in a state like Arizona that has a stand your ground on. Now, if someone were to, now you're not allowed to shoot peace officers.
So let's put a big pause there and go into that question, because
how do you know they're a peace officer?
Some might say you are giving a license to an individual to shoot a peace officer.
No, absolutely not. But how do you know they're a peace officer?
See, that's the fun part. You don't know. You won't know. These guys are hopping out of unmarked vehicles wearing masks. How is the average person supposed to know, especially when you're following the law? How is the average person supposed to know that these are federal immigration officers getting out of these vehicles? They're not identifying themselves. They're refusing to identify themselves. Their vehicles are not marked. They're wearing masks. They're pointing guns in your face. I mean, my initial instinct would be to pull my gun out. That's what I'm trained to do. You know, that's what I go to the range for. I train to protect myself when my life is threatened. So if I'm walking down the street and someone just hops out of a vehicle and I see a firearm, in the spur of the moment, I'm not going to think, oh, that's a police officer or a federal agent. I'm going to think that's a criminal that's here to take my life, and I'm going to exercise my Second Amendment right. I mean, that's what it's for.
That's the key. And so if there's a situation where somebody pulls out their gun because they know Arizona is a stand your ground state, then it becomes, did they reasonably know that they were a peace officer? You know, I mean, this is a different set of circumstances in the state of Arizona. And so,
but to be clear,
you know, I mean,
it's ironic because this is a Second Amendment issue.
This is a Second Amendment issue.
But to be clear, you're not telling folks you have license if you are threatened. To shoot a peace officer.
No, but again, if you're being attacked by someone who is not identified as a peace officer, how do you know? I mean, if somebody comes at me wearing a mask, by the way, I'm a gun owner. If somebody comes at me wearing a mask and I can't tell whether they're a police officer, what am I supposed to do? Honestly, Brahm, look what happened in Minnesota to the two legislators, one of whom was killed by a guy impersonating a police officer. That is why this is so incredibly incendiary. And again, it's a situation being caused by ICE and the federal government. And we are a stand your ground state. So it creates this combustible situation. No, I am not suggesting that people pull out their guns. But this is a don't tread on me state. This is a Second Amendment state. This is a state with a lot of guns in it.
And there's no coincidence why the states that have the lowest amount of gun owners or states that have assault weapon bans in place or states that require for its citizens to have pistol permits in order to conceal carry. You know, it's no coincidence why these states have been targeted, you know, at the forefront as far as these immigration raids, because it's a lot easier to oppress people when they're not able to defend themselves against any form of tyranny. You know, no one likes a bully. You know, it's just crazy. Like, no one likes a bully. And, you know, of course, these guys are specifically bullying the states where gun ownership is not that high. You know, that's the best way to put it. And some people might say, well, a lot of these blue states have sanctuary cities where a lot of immigration is happening. And I mean, that could be true. But why is it that you have states like Texas and Florida that have higher rates of immigrants in them compared to states like Minnesota, but yet these states aren't being hit as hard as Minnesota? You have to ask yourself that. And then when you pay attention to the politics of it and you see which states are red and which states are blue, it all starts clicking for you.